Landmines themselves are just awful weapons. They're acts of desperation. Just to give you a sense, here from the Landmine and Cluster Munition Monitor, earlier today, the Landmine Monitor of 2024 launched on Wednesday. This is the 26th annual Landmine Monitor report. This is what it says, quote, at least 5,757 casualties of landmines and explosive remnants of war, ERW, were recorded, 1,983 killed and 3,600 injured for 2023. Civilians made up 84%, 4,300, of all recorded casualties where the military or civilian status was known. Children accounted for 37% of civilian casualties, 1,498, where the age group was recorded. In 2023, anti-personnel mines caused 833 casualties, the highest annual number recorded since 2011. And the number of casualties from anti-vehicle mines, 291, almost tripled since 2022, in correlation with increased casualties from this type of mine in Ukraine. And here is an image that this organization published, which is that in 1997, there was an effort by the international community to sign a convention and treaty that bans the use of landmines precisely because of how many civilians it will end up killing for years and decades into the future. The pretext of this war was that we were there to go and protect Ukraine and Ukrainians, and now we're going to, on top of all the other destruction that they've endured, that could have been averted had there been a diplomatic resolution that Keir Starmer and Victoria Nuland didn't block. We're now going to spread these landmines all throughout Ukraine and let Ukrainian kids die for years to come in the future, long after the war is over. And the orange spaces on this map, which include Canada and Mexico, all of Latin, South and Central America, all of Western Europe, most of Africa, Australia. The real holdouts are Asia, China, and Russia, and India. And of course, the United States. The United States is like, we're not signing on to a treaty to avoid these weapons. And then here's another chart that you can see that these countries, the darker purple they are, the more international aid they had to get in order to try and clear mines from their country in order to avoid these kind of civilian deaths. It's extremely expensive to try and clear these mines. It's often unsuccessful. Here from CNN in 2016 is a recollection of what happened in Laos when the United States in the 1960s, early 1970s, secretly bombed under the Nixon administration Laos and used a lot of landmines. And just ironically, Lloyd Austin, when he announced that announcement that I just referred to a couple minutes ago, was in Laos when he talked about the necessity and value of landmines, even though the United States devastated Laos with landmines for decades. Here's CNN in September of 2016, quote, "My friends were afraid of me. What 80 million unexploded US bombs did to Laos." Quote, "For 2 years after the accident, Ye Yang refused to leave his home. Quote, I couldn't farm, I couldn't go to see friends as they might be afraid of me," Yang tells CNN. "I didn't want to live." Yang was just 22 and burning rubbish near his village in northeastern Laos when a bomb blast tore off one of his eyelids, his top lip, and an ear, mutilated one of his arms, and left him with severe scarring from the waist up. His wounds were not caused by a modern-day conflict, but by the remnants of a war that was waged more than 40 years ago and is still destroying lives in this small Southeast Asian nation. Some 80 million unexploded bombs, 80 million unexploded bombs are scattered across the country. The deadly legacy of what became known as America's, quote, secret war in Laos, a CIA-led mission during the Vietnam War. Quote, "We were all but forgotten here," says the Laos-born founder of Legacies of War, with a quarter of villages in Laos, a quarter of them, contaminated with UXOs. It makes vast swaths of the Laos countryside unfarmable. Unfarmable. They cannot use the land because of all these mines that are just lurking. That's going to be what's going to happen in Ukraine. It goes on, "Farmers are also among the worst affected as the poorest are forced to toil the mine-laden fields to feed their families." Quote, 80% of people rely on their land to grow food in Laos. So they still use their land, even at the risk of their own lives. These are the weapons that, on the way out, Joe Biden has decided after 3 years of not sending them that he's now going to send. Or, obviously, Lloyd Austin has made that decision. Here from the Irish Times in April of 2017 is an article that documents and describes all of the ongoing horrors and killing of civilians throughout Southeast Asia as a result of the United States deployment of these landmines. And now we're going to bring that to Ukraine, the country we're supposed to be protecting. And it's going to kill Ukrainians for a year to come, the people that we're supposed to be defending. Just out of desperation to try and make it harder for Trump to resolve this war. Earlier today, we have a video here that is a video report from the Irish Times about the devastation caused by these landmines. It says an estimated 80 million unexploded bombs remain in Laos, dropped by the United States during the Vietnam War. Here you see an amputee. Decades later, men, women, and children are still being maimed and killed every year by unexploded ordnance scattered across farms, villages, and even school playgrounds. The Cope Center in Laos' capital is a rehab center for survivors where prosthetic limbs are made. There you see the prosthetic limbs being made. This is from 50 years ago. Companies that clear UXO are one of the largest employers in the country. There you see a person learning to go his way through life without the use of his left arm to learn how to drink with a prosthetic limb. And there have been many other countries where the United States has done that. In fact, the United States in the 1980s fought this dirty war against Nicaragua, where it tried to overthrow the government of Nicaragua by arming and funding the Contras of Nicaragua, who were basically terrorist groups and death cults. And one of the things the United States did was mine their harbors with mines. And well after the war was over, sailors and commercial shippers would constantly die by running into these landmines. And the Nicaraguan government sued the United States in the International Court of Justice. And the court ruled in favor of Nicaragua and said the United States owes Nicaragua some large amount, billions of dollars. And the United States just said, we don't recognize the validity of this judgment. We're not bound by it. We're not going to pay. We don't recognize the judgment. The United States goes around saying how we have to have a rules-based international order. These mines are terrorism. They last for a long time. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.